You can't have a central bank digital currency unless you have a blockchain distributed ledger mechanism in order to implement your CBDC down the road.
Welcome to this informative video where Marc Chaikin sheds light on the launch of FedNow and the intricate connection it holds with the ongoing debates surrounding central bank digital currencies. Delve into the Federal Reserve's motivations, the advantages of this new real-time payment system, and the potential slippery slope towards CBDCs. Chaikin provides expert insights, revealing both the promises and challenges this financial evolution might bring. Let's explore the intricate intersections of finance, technology, and governance.
What is the advantage for the Fed in launching FedNow?
Well, there are several advantages. It all started back last year, March of 2022, with Executive Order 14067 signed by President Biden. And basically, they were talking about cryptocurrencies in general, and they outlined a whole bunch of provisions that are looking to protect the citizenry and businesses and financial markets through a thorough analysis of cryptocurrencies and their impact on society. And in the end, the very last bullet was to explore U.S. central bank digital currencies. They followed that up after a year's worth of work on this effort, early spring, February, March of this year, April, and they came out and they said, listen, in July, we're going to launch FedNow. And this is a new payment system. It's, get the verbiage right on this thing. It's what we call a real-time gross settlement system, much like FedWire, similar to FedACH. It's just a method of payment. Of course, like you, that got my inbox of emails overflowing with ads every day saying this is the end of the world, this is the start of CBDCs, and it's coming on July 31st. We don't know exactly when it's coming. It's coming sometime in July. You're right. There's a lot of early adopters that are out there with some big names involved.
What is the reasoning that the Fed has put forward behind this initiative?
I think that's part of it. Part of it is financial access for the unbanked. From a government standpoint, I think that's, or underbanked. From a government standpoint, I think that's important. Let's face it, if you're a politician and you make the financial sector and financial services available to more people that didn't have it in the past, you probably just garnered some more votes. I think that's important from a government standpoint. From the U.S. standpoint, it's about the global lead in this effort. Let's face it, worldwide, they're exploring, central banks around the world are exploring central bank digital currencies. And where would we be as a leader in financial markets? Where would we be with financial dominance in the global economy if we didn't have a hand in that development? There are efficiencies, no question, about domestic and cross-border payments. The costs drop through the floor, the speed and the timing and the locations where transactions initiate and end can happen in the blink of an eye, 24/7, 365 a year. So that's obviously very positive. That's very positive from a global business standpoint to be able to transact and settle so quickly. And, again, I think it's one step closer to a central bank digital currency. And I think, for the current world's reserve currency, I think it's important to have that lead role. I think I told you off air, I'm a big fan of FedNow. I don't like the fact that I think it's a slippery slope that leads to the evil of CBDC. It's the building block on which a CBDC would follow, plain and simple. So, you can't have a central bank digital currency unless you have a blockchain distributed ledger mechanism in order to implement your CBDC down the road. It is the first step. It is the cornerstone, if you will, for a central bank digital currency. And that's why a lot of people are protesting. I will tell you that you're absolutely correct. In this country, in the US, you must have the authority of law to make this change to our currency. There's no question about it. You can't go cashless without it. It does require the input of Congress. It does require the acceptance from the executive branch. All those are elected positions. And that's why a lot of people feel this is several years down the line. This is not tomorrow. It's not July 31st. But the cornerstone is being laid now. And the time to look forward to what that means to us and the implications and whether or not we can block that or structure them in a way that are more suitable for freedom-loving citizens, I think is now. We have to be looking at this now, not later. I don't think Satan looks for a lot of opposing viewpoints in hell. And that's government coercion, basically. I forget who said it. I should know this, but a successful nation is basically one where the government is fearful of its people, not the people being fearful of the government. This puts so much power in the hands of the government. And I'm not talking about armed revolution or anything like that. I'm not evoking violence or anything. What I'm saying is the government is for the people. At least in America, that's the way it was set up. It is not, the people aren't there to serve the government, but the tables are getting flipped. And if you put that kind of power in the hands of politicians, I promise you they're going to abuse it. I think you're going to have a pretty good fight, and it's going to be pretty equal. I really do, unfortunately. I think the social movement towards censorship and, think or whatever. Everybody's got to think the same thing. And, it's not what this country was founded on. I think people are entitled to their opinions, but they're getting censored. And censorship by the government could be that next step with a CBDC. I don't like the way those things are going right now. And it's part of the reason that nobody can have a conversation and disagree civilly anymore. It used to be you and I can talk, we could completely disagree, and we'd still appreciate and respect each other's opinions. And that's gone from the table these days. I hope it comes back, and maybe this is the issue that brings it back. For a long time, I've thought that one of the things that make Americans American is their ability to question authority. And again, not saying that in a revolutionary or violent way. It's just I think it's good to question authority because we're all human and we can all make mistakes. And I think everybody has a hand in coming to the right decision. So I think that's positive. I'm surprised, actually, that it's that strong. I wasn't aware that everybody was so informed on the issue, or it tells me that we're not doing a great job of selling it as a government. I'm not so surprised about the numbers in Canada. Maybe a little because of what happened with the truckers. I would expect there'd be a little bit more of a backlash because of that. But my experience with Canadians is they're warm, friendly, open people, and they probably assume the best and not the worst, and probably talk to the numbers that came out. I think there's an element in the U.S. of a fear of not being part of the dance, if you will, not just not being part of the dance, but not having a leadership role in that dance. I think that's a real concern for our leaders and the status going forward of the world reserve currency. Let's face it, we've benefited for many, many years of the rest of the world buying our debt. I'm sure they want that to continue because it has a big impact on our standard of living. And if it goes away, our standard of living will suffer. And I don't think most Americans understand how badly that can change the way they do things day to day and moment to moment. I think it's inevitability worldwide. It sure seems that way. I saw the same numbers. I was shocked. I mean, in October, November of 2021, there were only about 80 countries. And now there's 130. I want to say there's about 15% or more that are actively running pilot programs right now. So this is not just, whiteboarding something to try and get an idea of where we might go in the future. There's implementation going on and testing. So I do see it happening. I think the U.S. wants to be a part of it. My only hope is that wherever it's implemented, that all the facts are brought out. We're not just sold the bill of goods to buy into something, even though it's dangerous for the future, and we question it. and hopefully hone it to the point where it does some good. I do see the positives. Like I said earlier, I'm just a little too scared about the negatives. We're already seeing a drop in the reserves of US dollars held by central banks in favor of gold, in favor of other currencies. So that trend is already happening. And, I love our country, but I got to tell you, we're bringing this on ourselves. There's two things that we're doing that are driving people away from dollars. Number one, we're mismanaging the dollar. If I'm going to hold a long-term investment in my currency reserves of US dollars, and it's obviously being mismanaged and losing value and becoming worth less over time, I'm going to want less and less of that in my currency reserves. I'm going to put it in its place something that can hold value better. Gold and maybe better managed currencies, although I don't think there's too many of those on the planet either. So that's one thing, is we're mismanaging our currency. Two, we weaponized it. And you'd think, okay, well, that keeps the bad guys out of the monetary system. But you know what? I think it's forcing the good guys out too. Our friends are sitting there saying, I see what they're doing. They cut Russia out of the banking system. And right now I'm on the good side. We're friends. But what if I do something, I misstep, I don't do something right, and America doesn't approve? Am I then on the bad side? Am I going to get cut out of the banking system as well? And they're starting to ask those questions. And the answer is, let me look for an alternative. Again, we're doing this to ourselves. I wish we weren't. I hope we stop.